So this is how the snake lost its legs. Okay. One day, when the world was still soft and green, and the trees grew as high as mountains, and the mountains themselves glittered with thousands of precious stones, the big man Neil Moore went walking in the early morning. His house was at the end of the glen, a small stone house with leaning walls to drain the rain and tied stones to hold the roof firm. The path went from his front door to the very point of the river many miles hence, where it flowed into the sea and turned filmy grey where the fresh met the salt. Neil Moore set out and walked his path until his great feet were sore and his knees creaked like old timbers. He walked past mossy boulders and dry grass fields and the mighty tall trees standing with their backs to the mountainside. It seemed as though he had always been walking, and he forgot what it had been like to not to walk. Just as he was about to stop for a rest, he came to the sea at last. Standing at the water's edge and looking out at the ocean, rippling with a blue that was not really blue at all, but purple and grey and green and deep, deep black, the man thought only about how much his feet were hurting him, blisters and corns and chafing from his long walk. He decided to take off his boots and step into the cool waters of the ocean at the place where the fresh, bubbling river met the cold, salt sea. As he turned from his boots and stepped into the water with a sigh, Elmore did not notice a shape coiling through the long grass behind him. It was Maury, the long, speckled snake, and a great maker of mischief. "Aha!" said Maury to himself. "I see the big man has come down out of the mountains to look at the ocean and stand in the waves, but fie! He has left his boots unattended. What a shame it would be if some passing rogue were to take them for themselves." The scaly, speckled mischief maker thought to himself a while, and then smiled suddenly and showed his pointed fangs. "I shall take them myself, to look after them like, to keep them from any wicked fellows moving by. They do look like very fine boots in any case." Now at this time, when the land was still very young, Maury the serpent had legs of his own, 4 of them, that could carry the wily snake at some fair pace across the earth. Each leg, of course, had a foot at the end of it, and with 2 of these, Maury stepped into the great boots of the big man and trotted quietly away. After a while, Niall Moore felt that his aching feet had been soothed sufficiently by the cold, salt sea water and by the flowing fresh river, and stepped out onto the brittle beach grass to find his boots and begin his long walk home. But of course, his boots were nowhere to be found. He cast about for them, hid behind rocks, looked through the long grass, even waded back out into the water to see if the tide had taken them away. He searched and searched until the sun began to set, but there was nothing. They had vanished. The big man thought to himself and stroked his black beard. He looked down at his aching feet, already blistered from the long walk. The journey home without his boots would wear away his feet to nothing. He bent down mirthfully to poke at a particularly painful corn on his big toe, and suddenly stopped. He could smell something strange now that his face was closer to the ground, a cool, dry, frictionless kind of smell. It was the smell of Maury, the long, speckled snake and maker of mischief, and he knew it very well. He found a set of tracks, a strange, half-legged trail. The front prints were smooth and pointed, but the back were large and heavy and held the print of his lost boots. Niall Moore frowned and cracked his knuckles and started after them.